So recently some clips have been circulating of this guy hanging out in a bear's den. While a lot of clip channels have framed this as being a wild encounter, that's not exactly the case. The actual full video is made by a popular YouTube creator, and the premise is that he's spending 24 hours with captive bears. Obviously doing this is still super dangerous. You would never catch me in a bear's home, even if the porridge was just right. Although they're captive bears, they're still wild animals, they're not domesticated, and in that way they can be unpredictable. Not only has he invaded the bear's private space, he's put himself in a situation where there's no escape. There's only one way out, and it's blocked by a bear. The bears even make it clear that they don't want him in the hole. In the full video, they end up literally pushing him out. Also, to clarify, the guy in the hole is not the guy who raised them. I think they say in the video that he met the bears within the hour of doing this. He also clearly hasn't been trained in how to interact with the bears. At one point, they even have to tell him to not poke it. Don't poke the bear. That's like the #1 rule for bears. He's treating it more like a dog than a wild animal. Now look, I'm no animal expert, so maybe this was a completely safe situation. I'm not going to pretend that we know the ins and outs of it. While captive bears have definitely done people in the past, I can see people having differing opinions on this whole situation. But seeing this video has reawoken something in me. It sent me down the rabbit hole into more videos of people goofing around with animals in a way that they probably shouldn't be. For the rest of this video, we're not going to be talking about captive animals. We're talking about people interacting with wild animals. I've done a video like this before on the channel. In that video, we talked about animals like the blue-ringed octopus, and we talked about areas like Yellowstone National Park. We're going to be looking at a bunch of new animals today. Some that were requested, some I found by myself, and a couple of returning animals as well. My intention with this video is not to be mean-spirited. I want to look at things from a more educational standpoint. For the most part, the people in the videos we're looking at today are not attempting to be risk takers. These are just people making mistakes, or they don't know what the hell they're doing. Maybe some of them are crook, I don't know, but it's not for me to judge them, alright? That's not what I want to do today. I'm also not suggesting that people have to stay in their houses and hide away from nature. I'm the #1 supporter of going out there and seeing a little animal, or a big animal. I think that's sick. I'm just a believer that it should be done in a way that's safe for you and safe for the animal. No one should get near any animal without understanding the capabilities of the animal itself. I'm also no animal expert, alright? I have no qualifications. If you think I'm off base on anything, feel free to let me know in the comments. Also, to clarify, in all the clips I'm showing today, no one gets seriously hurt, but some of them get pretty bloody close. Let's stay on bears for a little bit. When I made the last video, I don't think I fully understood how comfortable some people were around these animals. I'm sitting here in Australia, not a bear in sight. Everything I hear about these animals is a horror story. So you understand my confusion when I see clips like this. So many clips of people hand-feeding wild bears. These guys have a bite force of over 1,000 PSI. That's enough force to crush a bowling ball. There's no way you should be putting your hand anywhere near it. This is a kind of animal that only knows survival. There's no such thing as charity in the wild, so this is a completely foreign concept to a bear. It's more likely to interpret what you're doing as coming between it and a good meal. They have instincts to be protective over their food. Their whole purpose is to bulk up for the winter. You don't want to come between this guy and its food. We're also made of what they eat. I can't stress that enough. We're made of meat. But by feeding them, you're also not just putting yourself in danger, you're putting the bear in danger as well. When an animal becomes accustomed to receiving food from humans, it loses the fear of humans. A wild animal isn't necessarily becoming more tame, it's just becoming more confident, which results in people getting hurt and then the animals being put down. Even if the bears never end up hurting anyone, they still can be put down as a preventative measure, because a bear can't unlearn the behavior that humans equal food. It's weird to talk about bears because it just feels like we should know what they're like. We should know what their whole deal is by now. Alright, so bears are big, but what if a dangerous animal was small?
Back 9 months ago, I was nearly killed at the beach.
Empty, yes.
I found a live textile cone shell.
No way, it's empty. Wait, is it? Yeah, that's just a rock. No way.
This
That's
animal
right
will kill
here.
in less than 9 minutes.
Oh my god, I'm so excited. That's my best find ever.
I thought it was empty. Number for most deadly animal on Earth.
Man.
So this is a cone snail, and it's been described as one of the most venomous creatures on Earth. This venom is administered through a tiny little harpoon, and while most of the time worms or fish are on the receiving end of this, sometimes people who like the look at the shell will pick it up, and then they'll be on the receiving end of it. And with the larger snails, this harpoon is strong enough to go through even wetsuits and gloves. The venom itself can be so complex that it is lethal to humans, and to make matters worse, there's no antidote. That doesn't mean you can't survive from it, there's just no antidote. Why a little snail that hunts worms needs a venom so strong that it can kill a guy You know, I don't know. Feels unnecessary. The symptoms of the venom include severe localized pain, swelling, numbness, tingling, and vomiting. Severe cases include muscle paralysis, changes in vision, respiratory failure, and can lead to death. So if you see a pretty shell at the beach, maybe think twice before picking it up. Here's a clip that I found that just shows how easy it is to interact with these animals in a safe way. You can get real close to these guys, and there's no danger unless you are in touching distance of them. You don't need to be afraid of the death snail as long as you know the risks involved. Now, what's interesting about this video is that the guy in it clearly knew the risks involved, but also we can clearly see that there's an animal in there. Like, I don't know what the hell they were thinking here. Look, the cynic in me kind of thinks that maybe that they knew that the animal was in there and maybe it was dead or something. We can clearly see there's a little guy in there. I don't know, I'm suspicious. I don't want to believe that anyone is that silly. Let's go to the next animal.
An Arabian Oryx, just chilling in the garden. Hello mate, are you any more danger? Whoa, whoa, whoa.
A lot of the last video was dedicated to people messing around with things with big pointy things on their heads, so I don't want to get too into this. Again, we're seeing here that a lot of people consider herbivore to equal friendly. The Arabian Oryx in the video gives a little hint to that due to the fact that it is dual-wielding swords on its forehead. Obviously, approaching a lot of animals is a bad idea. Going up to one that's in a vulnerable position, like lying on the ground, is clearly a bad move. Side note, this animal was once extinct in the wild, but it was reintroduced years later. So I don't know, it feels like we should, you give him a break. Now, in a little bit of a change of pace, this next animal is one that I have personal experience with.
What's up, Skip? Hey, go away.
So kangaroos are kind of just a fact of life in Australia. There's about 26 million people here, but there's about 50 million kangaroos. That's like 2 kangaroos to each person. We already lost to water emus. If they really wanted to, kangaroos could swoop in and finish the job. Now out the gate here, I do want to come clean. I have many times in my life downplayed the dangers of kangaroos. They're also an animal that I can confidently say I have been way too close to way too many times. That's because of how much of a non-danger I perceived them as. I've always known the stories and I've known about the dangers, but because of my own personal experiences, I always kind of assumed that these were overhyped. So if there's any kangaroos watching, I do want to apologize. I didn't know you had that dog in you. I should have known that any animal that gets this jacked from eating grass should have been on my radar. Their whole society is based around gladiatorial combat. I should have known better. They've got massive claws and their kicks can break bones. I watched a couple of them fight one time and their kicks just echoed through the valley. This is a bit of a rumor, I don't know if it's true. Supposedly when they feel threatened, they hang out in water so they can drown any potential threats. Again, I don't know if this is true, but this looks sketchy as hell. Even the little ones are worth looking out for.
Melanie Stubbs stumbles on a baby kangaroo stuck in a barbed wire fence.
Watch out, Mel! Watch out!
The claw slashed her leg down to the bone, requiring surgery, an infection sending her back for treatment every day for almost 3 months.
All this being said, if I was to pick an animal to fight from today's video, it would be a kangaroo still. Maybe the cone snail if I was equipped with a pair of tongs. There's only been 2 reported deaths of people getting done in by kangaroos, and in one of those situations, the kangaroo was a pet. So take for that what you will. Let's hang out in Australia for a little bit longer, and I will tell you about one of the most notorious and feared animals that we've got.
Hey, Mr. Cassowary. Hello.
So the cassowary has been heralded as the most dangerous bird on the planet, and potentially off the planet. Who knows if there's birds out there or not. But regardless, its name strikes fear across the globe. They're territorial, highly aggressive, and can catch you over any terrain. That includes the water. And if they do catch you, they've got multiple ways to deal with you. They've got these massive 4-inch talons that they use to stab and slash. And when you take into consideration that they've got a 7-foot vertical, they can slash you in some pretty gnarly places. And obviously, they've got a pretty sharp beak, and they've got a pretty solid helmet that that'll mess you up if they charge into you. They're also the second heaviest bird. They're built like a brick house. And even though they almost exclusively eat fruit, in the areas they live, they are considered to be the apex species, meaning that they have no natural predators, which means they have no comprehension of fear. So what the hell are they doing in this video? Who in their right mind is going anywhere near these guys? Well, to be honest, not a lot of people. In a lot of these clips, you may notice that people aren't approaching the birds, rather the birds are approaching the people. In a lot of these videos, people definitely aren't doing anything wrong. So unfortunately in Australia, cassowaries are endangered. And one of the reasons for this is encroaching civilization on their natural territory. So like a lot of birds in Australia, like the bin chicken, they're starting to adapt to society as well. And I don't mean that in a positive way. There's been a lot of reports of people feeding cassowaries at campsites, which has led to cassowaries starting to rely on people for food. This is obviously troubling for the same reasons that I talked about the bear stuff earlier in the video. In a study done years ago, they found out that 75% of cassowary attacks were from cassowaries that had been fed by people. 73% involved the birds expecting or snatching food. The people in these clips here are doing the right thing. They're stopping the cassowaries from eating their food. Unfortunately, everyone isn't on the same page, which leads to danger for people and unfortunately leads to danger for an endangered animal. Surprisingly, there's only actually been 2 reported deaths by cassowary, and one of those happened in Florida. It was a guy's pet. Thankfully, when it comes to Australia, there's no animal scarier than this, right?
You know, people are entitled to their sexual proclivities. You know, I mean, let there be 1,000 blossoms bloom as far as I'm concerned. You know, but I ain't spending any time on it because in the meantime, every 3 months, a person is torn to pieces by a crocodile in North Queensland.
Alright, so right now you might be thinking, Todd Edward Boyer, what the hell are you talking about here? Is anyone really getting that close to a saltwater crocodile? I think you're pushing it a bit here, mate. Nobody in their right mind is getting anywhere near these guys. Well, just wait for it, alright? We gotta set it up a little bit, okay? In the Northern Territory of Australia, there's this infamous crossing between Arnhem Land and Kakadu called Carhill's Crossing, and it's notorious for a couple of reasons. One of these reasons is that it often floods, leading to cars being swept off the road. The other reason is, and you probably guessed it, the high population of saltwater crocodiles. Now, saltwater crocodiles tend to be a very territorial animal, so normally their population density is between 5 and 9 crocodiles every kilometer. In this area we're talking about today, it's 50 crocodiles in a 400-meter stretch. The reason there's so many here is because every time it floods, it pushes all these fish upstream over the causeway during the high tide. It makes for a perfect area for the crocodiles to feed. So not only when people get stranded there are they in danger from the floodwaters, they're potentially in the middle of a feeding frenzy. Now obviously this is all very dangerous. Surprisingly, this aspect is not really what I want to talk about today. I'm just going to show you the full clip. It's from a guy named David McMahon Australia on TikTok. This is how I found out about the crossing. He's made really good educational videos on the area and I suggest you check it out. It's good to hear the information from a guy who's actually experienced in the area.
Have a go at this. A mate of mine from See Around Australia Tours sent me this video. You got parents and their kids fishing right on the edge of the water at the infamous Carhill's Crossing. There are crocodiles everywhere. That little kid is the perfect size snack for a crocodile. We've got to stop behaviour like this. We need to teach people how to stay away from the water, otherwise someone's going to get taken. It's only a matter of time, and then everybody suffers. People suffer, the crocs suffer. It's not good enough.
I'd like to know your thoughts, but for me, this is one of the most baffling clips I've seen while making these videos, so I'm not even really sure where to start. This literally feels like a tragedy waiting to happen. It's also worth noting that this is not like a singular incident of this situation happening. There's been reports for years, specifically of tourists who don't know the area well doing this, getting right on the edge of these waters. They've even built a massive viewing platform to help dissuade people from doing this. It's also not some kind of special area where the crocodiles are known to be super nice. People have been done in here by the crocodiles as recently as 2017. To get a little more into the animals themselves, these are saltwater crocodiles specifically, they're not freshwater crocodiles. To clarify, saltwater crocodiles doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be in salt water. They can be in any kind of water. These are different guys with different physical attributes and different behavioral patterns. To focus in on the behavioral side, I've had the differences between the two explained to me in a very simple way. If you were to fall off a boat into the water, freshwater crocodiles would swim away from you out of fear. saltwater crocodiles would swim up to you looking for an easy meal. Crocodiles are an ambush predator, meaning they'll camouflage and they'll lie in wait for the perfect chance to strike. They don't have anywhere else to be. So even if hypothetically these people in the video were confident that there's no crocodiles around, the water here is murky enough that there's no guarantee of that. Saltwater crocodiles also get to over 6 meters in length, can weigh over a ton. And remember earlier in the video where we talked about the bite force of a bear, how it was just over 1,000 psi? With a saltwater crocodile, you're looking at a 3,700 psi. More than 3 bloody bears. Look, I absolutely love crocodiles. This is an area of Australia that I'd love to go to someday. And I hate the idea that through other people's negligence, we could miss the opportunity of seeing beautiful animals in such a beautiful area of the country. And that's the other thing that stresses me out about this clip. All it's going to take is for one person to slip. Yeah, unfortunately, like when it comes to the kids, it's more of a thing of wrong place, wrong time. All right, that was a little too serious. Let's move on. Let's have a little bit of the palate cleanser. Let's talk about foxes. Did you know that Todd means fox? Wow. Now, obviously, foxes are very cute. Obviously, if you get bit by one, you're gonna get some kind of infection. But did you know that they're serial crooks? I was able to find several videos of foxes stealing people's wallets. This is such like a fun, specific thing. I guess if you ever see a fox in the wild, make sure your wallet is in your pocket or your handbag or something. Apparently, this has to do with foxes really liking the smell of leather. And they've also been known to steal stuff like shoes. So there you go. I don't know what you do with that information. What a cheeky guy. They're like one of those animals too that you think, oh, that'd be a great pet. And then you find out anything about them and you realize it'd be terrible. It's bad, guys. You know, just get a cat or a dog. This next animal is another one that we talked about in the last video. But recently, I've seen a video on the TikToks that has sent me spiraling.
He experienced a once-in-a-lifetime moment when a seal came up in the ocean and gave him a hug. This cute moment shows how truly docile and friendly these seals can be towards humans. And although they may look daunting because of their size and speed in the water, for the most part, seals are harmless to humans and they can even be friendly. Although when you meet them, they may overstep your boundaries, and so you always need to be on alert. If you see a seal in the wild though, you shouldn't be scared. The babies are absolutely adorable. But you do need to check and make sure that that seal is not a sea lion. This woman did not do so.
I don't even know where to start with this. I just took psychic damage from that one. My brain is rotting in real time. Seals are not necessarily friendly. In this video, they implied that seals are friendly, but sea lions are dangerous. There is no real information out there to suggest that one of these is more dangerous than the other. And even if that were the case, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but like half the animals in this video are sea lions, not seals. Like, am I going crazy? This is a sea lion, right? But what a bold claim to make. Elephant seals and leopard seals are seals too. They're scary as hell. Now, obviously here, I don't really care about the semantics. I care about the misinformation. The implication of this video is that if this last animal was a seal, it would have been fine to pet. But it wasn't fine because it was a sea lion. It's not fine either way. It's a wild animal. Often sea lions and seals are described as being dogs of the sea, which I don't think is an unfair comparison, but what people got to remember is that they're wild dogs. It's not your nan's chihuahua. Not to mention, in a lot of places, it's completely illegal to touch a seal.
Little girl in the purple, you can leave now. Thanks.
Now, in the ocean, seals and sea lions do tend to be a little more curious than aggressive, but on land where they're vulnerable, they're a lot more territorial. None of them want you to approach them and touch them. Unlike what the video directly says, seals are not harmless to humans. They've got very sharp teeth, and if they bite you, they can lead to an infection called seal finger. The infection can spread around your body, and if it's left untreated, it can lead to amputation. This is an animal that people are way too comfortable with, and I do blame social media to a degree for this. There's so many clips of people getting into big trouble with these animals. I think people confuse the fact that they're not skittish with the fact that they're friendly. It's such a shame because they are like a really easy animal to appreciate from a distance. But there's just an insane amount of clips of people getting in big trouble with these guys. There's not a lot of wild animals out there that want you to pat them. But I'm pretty sure one exception to that rule are snapping turtles.
Hey, what you doing, little man? What you doing, little man? You a little pet.
I feel like an idiot. Dang it, I was wrong about that. I feel like a big idiot. In all seriousness, with this video specifically, I cannot understand the thought process behind it at all. There's not a lot of reptiles I'm looking at and I'm thinking, oh yeah, he wants a little pat. I wouldn't even pat a cat from front on like that. You know, you gotta go for like a little bit of a side angle, or there's a risk the cat's gonna jump you. Guess the turtle does have a kind face. Depending on the species of snapping turtle, there's been reports of them breaking bones and even breaking through broom handles. There's just tons of content all over the internet about how to safely handle these guys. But I guess with this animal, you know, they never seen that before and they've made a mistake. If you've got a serious interest in any animal and you want to see one in the wild, I really suggest you do a lot of research before you get anywhere close to one. Otherwise, it does sound like you weren't that interested in it in the first place. Most of the animals we talked about here today are pretty chill as long as you give them some small distance or you know how to handle them properly. And then the others were crocodiles. There was a lot more focus on Australian animals this video. This is more than I expected. If there's any animals that you know about that people always are getting way too close to, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'll probably end up doing another video on this concept in the future if you guys like it. And if you did like this video and you haven't checked it out already, make sure you check out my other video on this topic. We talk about other animals in that one, like a moose. Thanks for getting this far on the video. Have a good rest of your day.